Thanks for tuning in to Capital City News, your connection to Salt Lake City government. I'm your host, Poonam Kumar. Today we'll be talking about some simple rules and safety tips for sharing the road. We'll also take a look at what's coming up and conclude with our History Minute. But first, let's check out some things you may have missed from the last couple weeks. The City Council recently held their first public hearing on the 2014-2015 budget and heard from constituents about their concerns. The Salt Lake City Arts Council kicked off the Finch Lane Public Gallery with an opening on May 9th. They featured a variety of artwork including photography, sculpture, and mixed media work. The exhibit will run until June 20th. The City Arts Council also recently hosted the Living Traditions Festival, a premier event highlighting Utah's local folk and ethnic art since 1985. The festival brought about 30,000 residents and visitors together to enjoy cultural performances, eclectic music, unique art, and a blend of authentic food from around the world. Salt Lake Comic-Con, the third largest comic book convention in the country, announced at a press conference the dates for their next event, as well as the first 6 celebrities to be booked, which include Bruce Campbell and Christopher Lloyd. With spring in full swing and the weather warming up, more and more bicyclists and pedestrians are roaming the streets of Salt Lake City. To talk to us about the importance of safety and sharing the road with motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists, we have Alexis Verson, transportation planner for Salt Lake City, here to tell us more. Alexis, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
So May is Utah Bike Month.
Yes.
Will you tell me a little bit about sharing the road?
Sure. We have a statewide program called Road Respect, and it's an advocacy program that brings cyclists and motorists together to share the road respectfully and follow all of the correct state laws for cycling and for driving a car.
And this time of year, I mean, you've got cyclists, pedestrians, motorists, everybody's out and about enjoying the festivals and activities that are happening in the city. But what are some simple tips for, let's talk about motorists for a second. Sure. What are some simple tips?
The best thing I can recommend, honestly, is to follow the speed limit as a motorist and be really cautious, especially around intersections of cyclists. You don't want to cut a cyclist off who may be coming from behind you if you're turning right. You also want to be cautious when you're opening your door, getting out of a parked car, not to hit a cyclist who's traveling in the lane near you. There's also a 3-foot rule. It's a state law that you cannot pass a bicycle within 3 feet, just for their safety and yours.
Okay. And what about cyclists? Some simple tips for them.
Lights are required by law at night if you're traveling on a bicycle. That's huge. We always recommend helmets, obviously. Also, bells are really a good tip to have on your bicycle to alert pedestrians and other people that you're in the area. Also, ride with traffic and not on the sidewalks in downtown.
Okay. Now tell me about these hawk signals. I've seen one at Liberty Park. Explain, well, first define, what is hawk?
Hawk is a high-intensity activated crosswalk. So it's manually activated by a pedestrian who wants to cross the street, and it's a traffic signal for cars to alert them to stop and allow the pedestrians to cross the street. The one on the south side of Liberty Park on 1300 South also has a bicycle signal with it, so that a bicyclist exiting Liberty Park can hit the button and have a light that allows them to turn left onto 1300 South.
Okay. And some simple tips for our pedestrians. We've got a couple festivals and things coming up and high traffic in a lot of the areas here in downtown. What do you suggest for them, to be more aware and cautious of motorists and cyclists?
The best thing I can recommend is to not assume that a car or a cyclist can see you before you cross the street. We have the orange pedestrian flags that are really helpful at mid-block crossings downtown. I definitely suggest using one of those for visibility.
Now, I see you've got some maps here that you've brought along with you. So one of them is you've got the bikeways map. So just a great map showing us, places where to bike, where to go. Tell me a little bit about what's in this.
So this is our 2013-2014 edition for the Bikeways map, and it encompasses all of Salt Lake City, and it includes trails, it includes protected bike lanes, painted bike lanes, arterial roads, slow-moving roads, so you can really pick the way that you want to move around the city by bicycle. And it's free. It's at all of our bike shops in the city, and it's at our office and at Visit Salt Lake as well.
Great. And then you also have a little accompanying pocket booklet, right?
Yes. This is the Salt Lake City Pocket Bicycle Laws. It has the laws for pedestrians, motorists, and cyclists to share the road in a responsible way.
Wonderful. And then the very last thing I want to ask you is about Cycle the City.
Yes.
I, for one, want to do this Cycle the City program. So tell us a little bit about that. I know it's about a half-day ride throughout the city, and you get to hit some historic districts and things. So
it's 13.5 miles. There are 12 stopping points on it, and it also gives you a map and a little description with everything. And it's really a good way to get familiar with Salt Lake City. It's a really great tourist map, but it's also really good for people who live here and maybe don't get to see all these things on a normal basis. So
great.
It's a lot of fun.
Also a great way to get fit and healthy, right?
Exactly, yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here today to share some wonderful tips on how to stay safe on the road and to share the road.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. With bike safety in mind, the team at SLC TV put together this great video about left turns on busy urban streets.
It's legal for a bicycle to turn left at just about any intersection in the city, even if cars can't. Take this intersection, for example. Cars can't turn left over those tracks, and bicycles shouldn't be crossing that way either. But if you need to make that left, it can be challenging, but there's a technique we'd like to show you. It's called a Copenhagen left in most places, well, mainly Copenhagen, but it's very safe, simple, and it's perfect for Salt Lake City. The city's even installed a landing pad on Main Street and 2nd South to show you how it's used, and I'll use it to show you how it's done. So you head through the intersection like normal. See, there's me. Instead of crossing the street all the way, you stop at the landing pad, wait for the light to change, and then carry on as normal. That's it. There aren't too many of these landing pads in the city yet, but more are planned, and you can make a Copenhagen left anywhere you're looking at turning left into two-way traffic. It's safe, and it's smart.
And don't forget, July 10th kicks off the Twilight Concert Series at Pioneer Park. You can buy tickets and series passes now by visiting 24tix.com/twilight. Mayor Ralph Becker and Jesse Schaefer from the Arts Council had the latest on this year's headliners.
Hey, Jesse! Thanks for joining us at such short notice.
Mr. Mayor, no problem.
Listen, call me Ralph, please.
Sure, Ralph. Well, you can call me Jesse. What can I do for you?
Well, listen, I hear the Twilight series is going to be coming up here pretty soon, and I was kind of thumbing through my LPs, and I got some great suggestions for you. So maybe, how about Boz Skaggs?
Yeah, I think we're trying to go for a little bit of younger audience this year.
How about Kenny Loggins?
Kenny Loggins. No, actually, we've already booked our lineup for this year. We're starting out on July 10th with Ms. Lauryn Hill.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. I remember from her early days with the Fugees.
I think July 17th, we have TV on the radio. You heard of those guys?
Yeah, I remember they were the opening act for the 9 Inch Nails, I think back in '05. I'm a big fan.
Then for July 24th, we have a really exciting show. We got Charles Bradley coming to town.
Charles Bradley coming to Salt Lake? That will be great.
I think this one you're going to be really excited for. July 31st, we got Wu-Tang Clan. What do you think about that?
I'm a big fan. Can you believe it's been more than 20 years since Protect Your Neck? Bring them on.
Well, August 7th, we have the local natives coming. That's going to be a good one as well.
Sure wish these locals were native to Salt Lake City.
On the 14th of August, I think that's going to be one of our best. We have Bat coming, which is going to be a really cool show. What do you think?
A bit of a change from his earlier work. Sea Change is my favorite.
On August 21st, we got De La Soul coming.
I can remember the first time I spun De La Soul, like it was yesterday.
We have a great show to end our season. August 28th, we have The Head and the Heart.
That'll be a great way to close out the season.
So it's sure going to be a great lineup, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't miss, particularly the Wu-Tang Clan. Those guys are right up my alley.
I've been in years, so that's definitely.
And now it's time for our History Minute.
Bicycle racing has a long history in Salt Lake City. The original Salt Palace boasted a bicycle track, and it was a popular sport to watch in the early 1900s. But not many people know that Salt Lake City is one of the central homes of what professional bicycle racers refer to as America's toughest stage race. The Tour of Utah has blossomed into a world-class bicycle race, and the Salt Lake City portion of the race is definitely the most urban. Every year, one stage of the race cuts through the city itself, closing streets from the avenues around the Capitol and through downtown, giving residents a taste of world-class bicycle racing. The race itself grows every year, attracting more and more international World Tour teams. For those of us who are into more recreational bicycle use, Salt Lake City now boasts more than 150 miles of bicycle lanes, and that number is growing.
That's it for this edition of Capital City News, your connection to Salt Lake City government. Be sure to tune in next time to keep up to date on what's happening in the city. For Salt Lake City TV, I'm your host, Poonam Kumar.